What is going on, everybody? Been a diehard Pistons fan since '03 and eager to see this team getting back to playing winning basketball. In today's video, we will be talking about 5 key factors that need to go right in order for the Pistons to make the playoffs this year. There has been lots of talk amongst the fan base this offseason on if this team has what it takes in order to make the playoffs. Realistically, it's the play-in that we're talking about here, but once you get to the play-in, anything can happen. It's a one-game series, literally playing Russian roulette. I've watched enough March Madness in my lifetime to know that anything can happen in one game series. So in this video, we'll just be talking about 5 key things that need to go right in order for the Pistons to make the play-in / potentially the playoffs. The number one and most important factor is going to be Cade Cunningham taking a leap forward. Of course, last year, Cade Cunningham averaged 23 points and 8 assists in his 3rd year in the NBA. Technically his 3rd year. It was honestly his 2nd year since he only played 12 games in his sophomore season. But Cade's going to need to take a step forward and be a true all-star caliber player if the Pistons want to have a chance at making the play-in / playoffs next year. What does that look like? It could look like a few different things. I think the most obvious one is becoming more of a scorer. I think that there's a lot of potential for him to get to the free throw line more. I think that there's potential for him to be better on defense. I think there's potential for him to turn over the ball less and overall just be more of a dominant player on the floor night in and night out. If you guys have watched this channel for long enough, you know that I am a huge believer in Cade Cunningham, and I do think that he will take the step forward necessary in order for this team to be a play-in team this year. But this is number one on the list and most important, because if Cade is unable to progress and develop the way that I think he will, it's going to be very, very hard for this team to make the play-in with that caliber of player leading the line. So the second most important thing that needs to go right for the Pistons to make the playoffs is going to be the veterans not regressing. Of course, the Pistons went out and got 3 key veterans this summer, honestly 4 if you count Paul Reed, with Tobias Harris, Malik Beasley, Tim Hardaway Jr., and Paul Reed. 4 key veterans that will likely be getting minutes on this roster, and we just can't have any of them regress. We need all 4 of those guys to be as good, if not better, than they were last year. We need every single one of those players to not take a step back. Sometimes at the ages of guys like Tobias Harris and Tim Hardaway Jr., you very likely can expect them to regress slightly, whether that be statistically or on a night-to-night basis, unable to provide the consistent minutes as they once did. But in order for us to be a playoff team, these guys need to be just as good as they have been at the best points in their career, and we honestly need them to play as well as they ever have in order for this team to be a play-in team. Number 3 on the list is going to be health. This should go without saying, but if the team does not stay healthy, you can forget about the play-in right now. Of course, over the past couple of years, the team has been pretty badly plagued by injuries. Last year, Cade did play the majority of the season. He did get over 60 games. It would have been closer to 70 if they didn't shut him down to tank. But there was some key injuries like Isaiah Stewart, who missed almost half of the year. Simone Fontecchio had to go sit down pretty early. Long story short, the Pistons have been injured frequently over the past couple of years. One good note about that, out of the veterans that we just talked about, those guys relatively have been healthy for their careers, knock on wood. Last season, Tim Hardaway Jr. played 79 games, Malik Beasley played 79 games, Tobias Harris played 70 games, Paul Reed was over 70 games, so those guys that we've added this offseason have historically been healthy, which is a good sign, and we really just need to hope that guys like Cade, Ivy, Thompson with his issue, all of that stuff just stays relatively easy on us and we don't have players missing a bunch of time, because with the way this roster is built out, we cannot afford to lose key pieces for very long, for big stretches of the season. Number 4 on the list is going to be Jalen Duren's defense. Now, I have definitely not came anywhere close to hitting the panic button on Jalen Duren's defense like many others in the fan base have. The dude still is only 20 years old. He is younger than a lot of rookies that were just drafted this past summer. So I'm not at all worried about it. But in the short term, if the Pistons do want to be good enough to make the play-in this year, they are absolutely going to need to take Jalen Duren and have him take a step forward on the defensive end as a rim protector. Because if he doesn't do it, nobody else will. The lineup and roster obviously lacks quite a bit of depth at the big spot. We realistically only have Jalen Duren, Isaiah Stewart, and Paul Reed as our three bigs. Both Isaiah Stewart and Paul Reed are a bit undersized at the big spot, so Jalen Duren just needs to take a big step defensively. Now, am I sure that'll happen? I don't know. Will I rush it or be worried if it doesn't about Jalen Duren personally? No, he's only 20 years old, so I've got a lot more patience with the dude than it seems like a lot of other people do. But like I said, in the short term, in order for this team to be able to make the playoffs this year, Jalen Duren is going to need to take that step defensively and become a better rim protector sooner than later. Number 5 on the list is going to be the other teams. And when I say that, what I mean is we need other teams to start tanking and tank early. Of course, Cooper Flagg will be in the upcoming draft. He is a little bit more of an enticing number 1 overall pick than we did see last season. So hopefully some teams turn in that direction. When we're looking at other teams in the East that potentially might not be the greatest, obviously the Washington Wizards come top of mind. The Brooklyn Nets traded away Mikal Bridges and have positioned themselves to look more towards the future than the present. The Toronto Raptors made a similar move actually last season by trading away Pascal Siakam and becoming a little bit younger. No one really knows what's going on with the Hawks. No one really knows what's going on with the Bulls. It's really hard to say what the Hornets will look like. But I just listed off 6 or 7 teams that if things do go the Pistons' way, they could potentially have a better record than all of those teams. What it's going to have to take is a lot of those teams tapping out early, entering their name in the Cooper Flagg sweepstakes, and just not causing any problems for fighting for that 10th spot. Now, of course, not every single one of those teams will be in that type of position, but it's the NBA. Players get hurt. If, say, one of those teams I mentioned more towards the top of that list, like the Hornets or Raptors or Bulls, has a player go down, maybe around the All-Star break, and they pull off the gas a little bit and start running out more young players and trying to develop more rather than focus on winning, that will help the Pistons' chances of being able to accomplish that 10th seed spot, get into the play-in, and then make a run at the playoffs. There's a lot of other potential things that could happen that would affect this Pistons team greatly. Things that come top of mind: Asar Thompson developing a jump shot, Jaden Ivey becoming a prolific scorer, Ron Holland maybe making an impact earlier than some of us expected. There's a lot of different things that could help this team, but this was my top 5 list in order of most important that I think will have a serious factor on the Pistons' potential to make the playoffs this year. But let me know what you guys think. Let me know, do you guys have anything else that wasn't on this list that you think might be realistic? And if it does happen, it'll help this Pistons team win a lot more games quickly. I'd be curious to know. I'll catch up with y'all soon.